A single factory in the Netherlands just triggered an industrial meltdown. Overnight, China shut off chip exports, and car plants from Germany to Mexico went dark. The trouble began when The Hague seized control of Nexperia, a Dutch-headquartered but Chinese-owned chipmaker. What followed exposed just how tightly global manufacturing is wired together. Beijing, furious over the move, restricted Nexperia's exports from its factories in China, sending shockwaves through industries that depend on the company's simple, inexpensive semiconductors. China isn't just cutting chips, it's cutting leverage. By freezing Nexperia exports, Beijing has exposed how 70% of Europe's semiconductor output still relies on Chinese assembly and testing. In one move, China turned the West's supply chain independence into a myth. German auto stocks are sliding, Japanese suppliers are bracing for layoffs, and Trump's Treasury team is reportedly in emergency talks with Seoul and Taipei to source replacements. But insiders warn, even with full cooperation, ramping new lines takes 6 to 9 months. Every day of silence from Beijing now costs Western automakers roughly $1.4 billion in lost output. Volkswagen quietly informed employees that production was secure only for another week. Its chief executive admitted the risk wasn't in the flashy processors or AI chips, but in the low-cost transistors and diodes found in every braking system and airbag. Honda has already reduced output at some North American plants, while Nissan warned that supply shortfalls could soon hit production in Japan. One Tokyo-based procurement manager described the situation bluntly. "These are the chips no one thought about until they disappeared." Nexperia's scale explains the panic. It manufactures more than 100 billion chips each year, most of them the legacy components that keep vehicles running. Roughly 60% of its sales come from the auto sector. When the Dutch government intervened on national security grounds, it forced Wingtech, the Chinese owner, out of management control. China retaliated almost immediately. What began as a European regulatory move became a global production crisis. The European Commission is now mediating between The Hague and Beijing to limit collateral damage. EU trade officials have confirmed that German parts suppliers are lobbying for exemptions so China-based packaging and test lines can keep running. The stakes are high. Legacy chips make up a quarter of the global market. They are the connective tissue of modern manufacturing. Replace one supplier, and you must requalify every assembly line that touches its parts, a process that can take months. Economist Karsten Berzeski of ING explained that the seizure underscored the illusion of control. You can seize ownership, but you can't seize capacity. The factories are still in China. His point echoes across the industry. Supply chains are not national. They are gravitational. TrendForce data show that China already controls roughly 1/3 of global mature node semiconductor capacity, and that share could approach 40% by the end of the decade as new fabs come online. These are the old chips, power management, analog, logic, that underpin nearly every industrial product. As China's footprint expands, the West's leverage over the physical hardware that drives its economy continues to shrink. Meanwhile, Chinese automakers are quietly taking advantage. BYD, SAIC's MG, and Chery have captured more than 7% of Europe's car market. Even with tariffs, their growth is accelerating because they can secure the chips their competitors cannot. For European manufacturers, the math is brutal. Every delay in component deliveries hands market share to faster rivals. Volkswagen reported a €1.3 billion operating loss this year, and the Nexperia standoff could make that worse. In Washington, the White House is pressing Beijing to reverse its export curbs. The Trump administration, which initially encouraged the Dutch action as part of a broader technology security drive, now faces pressure from automakers and unions warning of layoffs. Officials are exploring whether emergency licenses could allow United States plants to source from alternative suppliers, but industry insiders say no quick fix exists. The chips are too specific, the validation too slow. Across Europe, factory lines are pausing for lack of a component that costs less than $1. Bosch has prepared furloughs to conserve cash. Volkswagen insists its scheduled pauses are routine, yet internal documents reviewed by reporters acknowledge that inventories of discrete semiconductors could run out within weeks. In Japan, industry groups warn that even brief interruptions would ripple across Asia and North America. Once a model year production plan slips, it can't easily be recovered. Global economists now worry the Nexperia episode could trigger inflationary pressures similar to the post-pandemic semiconductor crisis. The U.S. money supply has risen again, and liquidity in the banking system has tightened. Federal Reserve officials concede that they may need to expand reserves soon to stabilize markets. Stocks remain near record highs, fueled by AI optimism. But analysts caution that optimism in the equity markets masks fragility in the industrial base. When the supply chain's low end breaks, it drags the high end down with it. China's advantage is structural. It dominates not only chip assembly but also the minerals that feed those chips: rare earths, gallium, graphite. The G7, recognizing this imbalance, has announced plans for a critical minerals alliance. The framework will include offtake agreements, price floors, and strategic stockpiling. Canada, under Prime Minister Mark Carney, is pledging billions to develop new mines and build reserves. The alliance is designed to reduce dependence on Chinese materials that can be weaponized through export controls. But, honestly, the math is daunting. Industry analysts estimate that replicating China's mineral and processing ecosystem would cost trillions and take decades. As one mining executive told the Financial Times, "You don't rebuild 30 years of integration with a communique." China can retaliate not just by restricting exports, but by flooding markets to drive down prices, making Western projects unviable. Price floors may stabilize investment, but they also risk turning the alliance into a permanent subsidy machine. In Europe, officials are already worrying about cost. Each layer of resilience adds expense and complexity to an industry already fighting to remain competitive. If the Nexperia dispute drags on, automakers will be forced to stockpile components and shift some production closer to Asia, undermining reshoring strategies that were meant to insulate them from geopolitical risk. The irony is glaring. The more the West tries to isolate itself from China, the deeper its reliance becomes. Carney's government, trying to balance trade revival with security, is reopening channels with Beijing even as it joins the G7 alliance. His ministers say Canada cannot decouple from the world's largest manufacturing base. That same pragmatism runs through Europe, where leaders privately concede that total separation is neither possible nor desirable. The goal now is to slow the erosion of autonomy, not to reverse it. Inside factories, engineers are improvising. Some are redesigning circuit boards to use parts from Infineon or Texas Instruments, though that process takes months. Others are bidding for emergency shipments from Malaysia and Singapore. Procurement officers describe auction-like conditions for basic transistors. Every shipment diverted to China raises prices elsewhere. The global chip trade, once invisible, now resembles an airlift. Financial markets treat the chaos as noise. The Nasdaq continues to rise, and the semiconductor index just posted its best streak since 2017. Yet the same optimism blinds investors to structural risk. Bank reserves in the United States have fallen to their lowest level in 5 years, leaving little cushion if credit tightens. If car makers start cutting production en masse, the shock will not stay confined to manufacturing. It will hit consumer spending, employment, and eventually asset prices. Meanwhile, the G7's mineral strategy is moving from talk to action. Canada and Australia have aligned export financing for strategic projects. The United States is exploring tax incentives for domestic refining. European governments are considering state-backed stockpiles of lithium and rare earths. The blueprint resembles the oil reserves built during the Cold War, a safety net for an era of geopolitical scarcity. Still, skeptics warn that no alliance can match China's integration of mining processing and manufacturing. "This is not a market we can win with slogans," says former Glencore strategist Helene Ray, now at the London Business School. "It requires the kind of patience investors no longer have." In the Netherlands, political negotiations following the recent election have slowed decision-making. Without a stable coalition, The Hague is cautious about reversing or softening its seizure decision. Each faction faces domestic scrutiny for either standing up to China or protecting Dutch industry. As talks drag on, shipments remain restricted and automakers worldwide continue burning through inventory. Across North America, automakers are running contingency drills. Lobbyists in Washington are warning that within a month, U.S. factories could see widespread downtime if chip deliveries do not resume. Some are even urging temporary waivers on tariffs for Chinese components to ease the crunch. It's an awkward reversal of the administration's own policy, one that, honestly, just illustrates how interconnected the system remains. China holds the decisive card. Its government can modulate the flow of components and minerals at will. Western responses, whether seizing assets or building alliances, require years of planning. Beijing can react overnight. For now, it seems content to let the world absorb the consequences of its leverage. The final image is quiet but telling. In a warehouse in Dongguan, stacks of anti-static reels sit idle under fluorescent light. Each reel contains hundreds of chips that cost less than a cup of coffee but can halt a $1 million assembly line. A forklift rests beside them, keys still in the ignition. Somewhere in Brussels and Washington, negotiators are drafting new frameworks and assurances. Yet until those reels move, every word remains theoretical. The crisis that began in The Hague has become a test of how much control the West really has, and how much it ever did. We're glad you're enjoying this video. Please like and subscribe. Check out another video that is now on your screen.